So I've been telling you guys for a couple of weeks now that I had a big interview lined up, and I didn't really want to give you guys too many details about it, like who it was and when it was going to be or anything like that, because plans change and things fall apart and all that. But today's the day, and so I'm about to go do that. Despite the fact that for about 3 years I was on the radio and I was like a morning talk show co-host, I've never actually interviewed someone before, so this is going to be the very first time I do that, and so it's going to be interesting to see how good of a job I can do at it. With that in mind, let's get to it.
What you think about when you're born into a fire?
All right, so today I'm talking to the one and only WolfheartFPS. We're going to spend a little time today talking about YouTube, MMOs, Ashes of Creation, stuff like that. But before we do that, you want to take a minute to tell my audience who you are and what you do?
Hello, guys. My name is Michael, and I run a YouTube channel by the name of WolfheartFPS, but I cover RPGs and dip into the MMO category a little bit. And hey, let's get Zillion to 1,000 subscribers. Let's do it. We're
almost there.
Let's do it.
We're almost there. All right. So, and go check out his channel. Go check out Michael's channel. He covers, like he said, Ashes of Creation. He's got content on that, and then like every MMO or every RPG you can think of. I was in your channel the other day on your live stream, and you were playing Solasta. And
thanks for stopping in, man.
That actually got me to go get that game, and I'm having a great time with it. Yeah, really strong Dragon Age Origins vibe to that game.
You getting some Dragon Age Origins vibes?
Yeah, and that's like my favorite video game of all time. So,
dude, man, people would love you on my channel, man. I got a lot of Dragon Age fans.
I love Dragon, or like two meh, Inquisition, okay, fine, but Dragon Age Origins,
yeah,
that's love that game.
The diamond in the rough for sure.
Yes, it is. All right, so.
Games.
Your channel is one of 3 that I really credit for like inspiring me to start my own channel. And I've done quite a few things that in some way kind of like mimic or iterate, things that you do on your channel. And what's really interesting, I found, because I was kind of looking into it, and across the 3 channels that inspired me, there's really only one thing they all have in common. And that is that while they do some scripted content, a lot of it is just turning on the microphone and just talking. And I noticed that I started out trying to script, and when I finally just stopped, because I really hated the way I sounded when I just turned on the mic and started talking, I thought it sounded awful, but all my friends were like, no, that's what you need to be doing. That's it right there. And so when I did that, all of a sudden I started having a lot of success. So I'm just curious if you found that to be the case for you as well.
So in my case, I actually focused more on scripted content for the longest time, and now I'm kind of transitioning into some more unscripted content. Both types of content serve their purpose, in my opinion. If I'm doing like a lore video, I don't really want it to be unscripted. I want to have it in a nice format, organized fashion, so I'm not wasting anybody's time, add the music, make a full production. But when you're giving your opinion on like a game review or something, I think viewers like to see unscripted content. Because the thing that makes you unique on YouTube is Zillion. Right. People will come to your channel because they know you. The information you provide, other people can kind of do that, but nobody can be Zillion. So I think you're doing the right thing. Maybe experiment with both types depending on what type of content that you're releasing.
There's been a couple of videos that I've done that I'm like, if in that style, if I would have scripted it, I could have hit the point I was trying to hit better. Because you kind of talk all around the point and don't ever actually hit the nail directly, on the head. So yeah, I see what you're saying. And I was just curious if you had found that, because I noticed that's one of like, I start to resonate with you when I'm watching your videos far more when I can tell that you're just talking on the mic as opposed to scripting. So
it's funny because I actually felt like my unscripted content, I wasn't articulating well. And I had a lot of, self-doubts on it, and I preferred the scripted content because of that. And you're the opposite. You're feeling like your scripted content didn't sound good, and then your unscripted was. So I think we can find a happy median, and I think that provides content for all types of people.
Do a little of both.
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody, anybody you see on YouTube or talk to on YouTube who's kind of, made it or become a success. And I'm not trying to say that you've made it and you're a made man by any stretch, but you're definitely on your way, and they all kind of have a different journey on how they got there. And I was just curious, can you tell me a little bit about your journey? Did you have like a viral video or like, did you just like consistently just post over a long time and, something in between? How'd that happen?
So my YouTube channel actually started in 2012, I believe. I'm getting pretty old.
Okay, yeah.
And my channel was based on music for the longest time. So my first 9 to 10,000 subscribers was actually from the music industry. I did a lot of metal and rock covers.
Yeah.
And the point of doing that wasn't really to build up a YouTube channel, but more so to get my name out there so bands would discover me and I could join an established band versus starting from the ground up.
Right.
And that ended up working out for me. And in 2015, a band from Thailand reached out to me.
Really?
I joined a metal band from Thailand.
That's awesome.
And over like a 5-year period, did a lot of traveling with them. And then eventually that died down and I started focusing on gaming kind of in 2019.
Okay.
With a lot of failure in there, a lot of consistent posting that didn't do crap, man. It's a rough, YouTube's a rough environment.
Yeah, it can be.
But over a couple of years of dipping into gaming content, I realized what works well and what doesn't. And what I found is that works well is focusing in on one topic and providing information that other content creators don't provide. And for me, that ended up being a game called Baldur's Gate 3. And once I started focusing on one game and covering that, eventually I was able to transition to full-time YouTube. And now I'm kind of branching out a little bit. I know you said you kind of want to branch out into more games.
Yeah, at some point, that is kind of the plan. I picked Ashes because it's not out yet, and because there's not a lot of creators for it, and so I was like, if I have what it takes to do this, because I mean, I've had friends that have been telling me for 10 years, dude, you need to be making content. Like, you're good at just.
You're very good at
shooting the bull, essentially.
Yep.
And so they were like, you're good at it and you should make content. And there's so many things you have to learn in order to make content. You have to learn how to Photoshop and marketing and SOE and SEO and like all that stuff. And, so I was like, if I can succeed on it, I want to get it on something that doesn't have as many people and not as not as much competition.
You're doing
yes.
it right. Yep.
Eventually, though, I would like to kind of more or less do what you do, just kind of cover RPGs in general, because I love RPGs. Dragon Age Origins, I just told you, is my favorite game of all time. And there are a whole host of RPGs that like a backlog that I haven't played, that I'm kind of like, I think I would play those if I was on stream and other people were playing with me, or we were talking about it. So yeah, that's kind of where I would like to go with it. But for now, I'm sticking with the Ashes.
Yeah, content. I think you're doing the right thing by focusing on a game that's not out yet.
No, thanks, man.
In a less saturated environment, and then when you grow a subscriber base, then you can start branching a little bit. But like we talked about on a previous call that we had, some of the content, when I branch out too far, even with Ashes of Creation, my views drop. Typically, not all the time, but they drop usually more so than when I cover CRPGs like Baldur's Gate or Celeste.
Sure.
And it's just part of the game. It's just building, making long-term plays and building up a channel and starting with a niche. So I think you're doing the right thing. That's
funny. That's one of the questions that I had for you was later on when we got into the Ashes area, but I noticed that your Ashes content doesn't get as many views as some of your other stuff. And so I was curious if you actually viewed making Ashes content as like a labor of love, like you're doing it because you love it, and as opposed to, I'm doing this because it gets me views and that gets me money.
Yeah, so there's a bit of that in there for sure. I've always loved MMOs. I haven't been active in the MMO community as much over the past 10 years, but I want to be happy with the content I create. If you're not passionate about the things you create, being a content creator is almost impossible. You won't have the motivation to do it. And Ashes of Creation caught my attention, and I said, I'm going to start doing a little bit of content, not worry as much about the views. And maybe one day it can be one of the games on my channel, one of the primary games alongside other RPGs. So
right. I noticed on your channel with the Baldur's Gate, a lot of your videos and your more successful videos are what I would call theory crafting videos, like build guides for classes, and how you have some of them have like over 100,000 views. And that's kind of where I want to take the Ashes stuff, because of the unbelievable amount of diversity of the builds with augments, and like I think we're going to have crazy numbers of builds. So that's kind of where I want to go, as like a theory crafter type of channel once we get there. So that's going to be pretty interesting.
The great thing about an MMO that you're covering an MMO is if you continue on this path and you're successful, which you're already experiencing some success. So congrats on
a little
that.
bit. Thank you.
It being in an MMO world and creating content on it, the content's almost endless for a very long time. Other games you cover for a little bit, then it gets stale. Nobody's looking it up anymore. But if Ashes is successful, like World of Warcraft, you're going to have a plethora
Right.
I just learned that word recently. A plethora of content to cover. So.
There you go. Oh, that's funny. So let's turn our attention to MMOs and talk about that. Like, I could pick your brain about YouTube all day long, but that's not what the crowd is here for, and we must entertain the crowd.
Gotta entertain.
Yeah. So, can you tell me a little bit about your history with the genre of MMOs, and like what are like the major titles that you've played?
So I'm a bit of I don't know if I'd say old school MMO player, because I know there's games that came out before that, but I started off playing RuneScape, and then I played the real classic WoW, not the modern classic WoW, the real World of Warcraft before Burning Crusade came out, and put a lot of time into that. I got a lot of funny stories of being addicted to it, and my mom not liking that. It's God, I
imagine, yeah.
But yeah, I'm a classic WoW player. I played for a very long time. Then I transitioned into Warhammer Online. Love that game. You mentioned that you played that one, didn't you?
Yeah. I've actually played. I played the crap out of Warhammer Online.
Yeah,
I'll tell you something funny. Something funny about that me and my buddy did. There was a class that came out, like, it was weird. It wasn't like an expansion. It was like they didn't have enough time to get it in before launch, and so they added it like 2 months after, and it was called the Night of the Blazing Sun. I don't know if you remember that class.
I don't remember that class, to be honest with you.
So it was a tank class, and it had these auras that it generated from you. It was a PBAOE auras, and they lasted for 12 seconds, but you could cast them every 1.5 seconds, whatever their global cooldown was, and they did damage and debuffed and healed you. And so my buddy and I figured out that you could set up a little macro that would run all three of them, just keep them going all the time. And we would literally set our computers up to run that macro, go stand in an area where a lot of mobs were, and then go to the movies and come back and be 6 levels higher.
That's awesome. I don't remember that class. I played a sword master as a tank. I don't remember the class you're talking about. I'll have to look it up. But
it was added a little bit later on. I don't know why, because it didn't have an expansion. It was seriously 2 months after launch.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah, I really did love that game. I was always
Warhammer was. It seemed like they were revolutionary in some of the things they were trying. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm just saying this because I wasn't looking at other games at the time, but the large scale PvP battles and stuff, even though they didn't really work that well with network and stuff, it was really cool to see that being implemented and participating in stuff like that. So
right, and they actually got those ideas from Dark Age of Camelot, which was from 2001, and they had that. The big thing that Warhammer did that a lot of games copied was achievements and collectibles. You could run around in Warhammer, and there was just little areas where there'd be those little dots letting you know you can interact with that little thing and go pick it up, and it would be like a collectible or whatever. And then Warcraft took
video game addiction at its finest.
Yes. Yeah, give me that little dopamine shot, please. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the biggest place where they were really innovative. Yeah. So what would you say is your favorite MMO? I'm guessing Warcraft.
It has to be World of Warcraft because it had the biggest impact on my life at the time. I did play SO a bit and Final Fantasy as more recent MMOs, but for the most part, I felt like the MMOs have been kind of hollow. I haven't gotten the same feeling that I used to back when the original World of Warcraft came out, when you had to socialize with people and you would get stuck out on the boats in the middle of the ocean. There's just so many things that MMOs don't have now that the old school ones had. So I don't know. I don't want to keep saying old school because there's going to be people in the comments that are like, that's not old school. I played a game in 1998, but it's old school for me. So
well, and don't get me wrong, Warcraft is old school at this point, and RuneScape is even older than that.
You ever heard of Risk Your Life? RYL?
Yes. Yeah.
Great memories. Oh god.
Meridian 59 was a MMO that people were logging into, I think in 95 or 96.
Wow.
This genre goes way back. So yes, there's always going to be, and then of course there were the multi-user dungeons before that. And so you talk about being an old school MMO player and somebody that was using an Atari to click to a major multi-user dungeon. It'll be like, whatever, whippersnapper, So anyways, what type of MMO player are you? Do you do more like raiding or PvP? And when you're in game, do you are you like an achievement? You somebody that's going after achievements, or are you like socializing in the main towns? Like what how do you play MMOs?
So for most of my life, I preferred more competitive type content. So I do like PvP content, but as the years go on, I'm starting to enjoy more PvE content as well. So I'm kind of in the middle of the spectrum, but if I had to choose a game, it might slip more towards the PvP side at the same time as offering a lot of great PvP activities.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. I've always, well, not always. I have a whole video on my channel about how I became a progression raid leader when I didn't even know what progression raiding was. I had no idea what it was, and I became the leader of a guild that was doing progression raiding. But so I did that mostly.
It's an honor to be in your presence, Dylan.
Why exactly?
You're my commander. You're the raid leader. You'll lead us in Ashes of Creation.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I'm a little nervous about raiding in Ashes of Creation, but that's a whole other thing. So I'm more of a PvEer, and I actually don't like PvP at all. Like I have no interest in PvP whatsoever. But I understand the importance of what having that non-consensual PvP does to an MMO. So even though I don't really think I'll participate. I will some, but that's not going to be my focus. But yeah, I'm more of a raider myself.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, so there's some people in my community that talk that are kind of like you. They don't really like PvP as much, but they're still very interested in Ashes. And the reason why is because if it works out as planned, having open world PvP in a game creates a sense of danger and thrill, even if you don't necessarily participate in it all the time. Maybe you're not a player that goes out looking to fight other players. Just having that danger and that thrill in the world creates a lot of emotions when you're out gathering resources. So it can really add a lot to an experience, as opposed to I love PvE games too, but in this case, we're comparing the both. In a PvE game, you might be out gathering resources, you see another player, and there's really nothing to it. You're not in danger of anything, nobody cares, you don't even socialize. In an open world PvP game, there's a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of interaction. You end up making a friend, you can't believe it because he didn't actually try killing me. A lot of social dynamics that aren't present in old games. I'm happy that Ashes seems to be bringing back.
They're trying. I noticed in the AMA that Steven did this weekend, he talked about how he wanted to have the scenario where, you're in a 4-man group and you're down in one of those open world dungeons and you come across another 4-man group and, of course at first you're like, are we gonna fight? But like you said, nobody ends up fighting, and then you go, hey, what are y'all doing? Oh, well, we're killing that boss. Oh, well, we were going to kill that boss. Let's do it together. And then you go off and you kill the boss together, and then you form a guild together. And all of a sudden, boom, you have a community. And they're trying to bring that back. And so that's definitely.
In the older MMOs, you had to really interact with people, and it seems like a lot of MMOs now are all about streamlining experiences, trying to appease the solo players, making it so you don't have to interact, and having a lot of convenience associated features. Convenience sounds good, but in my opinion, in my personal opinion, it's kind of ruined the way that games play out, because you're not forced to socialize, you don't get any emotion, the game's kind of boring. It seems like Ashes is trying to bring that back, so I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, there's no doubt that those convenient, there are people who only have a couple of hours a day to play the game. There was a there was a controversy on my channel because I mentioned an aunt of mine who plays Candy Crush, and she's asking me about Ashes of Creation because she watches my channel just to support me, And I kind of jokingly, in the video when I was talking about it, said that I was telling her, Candy Crush and Ashes aren't the same. And a lot of people were like, you're gatekeeping or whatever. And it's like, no, I sat down with her and explained to her how much time it was going to take to play the game. And then she went, oh, I don't have time for that. She plays Candy Crush for 20 minutes, 5 nights a week, so she has 2.5 hours of video game time a week. You're not going to get anything done.
She needs to pay to win Cash Shop.
Yeah, she'd be all over that Cash Shop, which I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, so there are people like that who need the more convenient type of game, or the game where you don't have to sink as much time. And to those people, I'm just like, there's so many of those games out there for you. Go play them. And the same thing with the people who want to roll solo in all these MMOs all the time. I'm like, there's RPGs out there that are way better at being single player RPGs than MMOs are. Go play those and don't come into this game and then complain because you can't get the +1 sort of badassness without getting a group together. You know,
Yeah, I think it's important for companies to focus in on a smaller spectrum of gamers as opposed to trying to appease to everyone. Because when you try to hit the entire spectrum of PvE only lovers and PvP only, you create a game that ends up being okay. It doesn't really excel in anything, and it never becomes the game that you want it to be. Nobody's really satisfied. So I think it's important for companies to try to focus in a little bit more on a niche within the spectrum, but at the same time, I want Ashes of Creation to be big. I don't want it to be like a Mortal Online, and I think Mortal Online is a really cool game, but it's a small community of hardcore gamers, and it's not like a big experience that everybody's talking about. I want Ashes to be big, so finding that balance on that PvE and PvP spectrum, I think is going to be important. At the same time as sticking more so on the PvP side to stay in a niche category. So
right.
If that makes sense.
I'm right there with you. I think it's funny that I have like every time I mention how hardcore Ashes of Creation is going to be, I have people that come down in my comments and they're like, "You haven't played Mortal Online. You don't know what hardcore." You know, they're saber rattling at me. And they're right. I've never played Mortal Online, but it sounds like it's pretty hardcore. And in the very first video I ever released, which was just in January of this year. And it was called Top 5 Reasons Ashes of Creation Could Fail. And one of the reasons I listed off was basically like not focusing on PvE content or ignoring PvE content entirely, because then the game becomes all PvPers. They gank the casuals leave, and then the small group of PvPers complain that they have to kill the same 50 people over and over again because that's all that play the game.
Yep, and you don't get as many updates to the game, and
all that. So I'm like, Ashes to me seems to be taking that there's a very narrow path that they're trying to hang out on, where it's like they want to bring in the PvP crowd and give them the ability to participate in that non-consensual PvP, give them the ability to participate in PvP that matters, protecting your caravans, defending your node, siege warfare, all of that stuff. But at the same time, having enough protections in place for the PvEers and enough content for the PvEers to keep them in too, and to keep both sides relatively happy, or maybe even ecstatic. And that would be even better if both sides are just like, I love this game. I'm a PvEer and I don't mind getting ganked every once in a while because of how incredible the nodes and the caravans and all that stuff is. So I think they're doing a really good job of
everything they talk about has me very interested in both the PvE and PvP content. And like you said, people that don't like PvP, I hope that we can still get a big crowd of those players. I hope that the game works out to where you get these social dynamics, these social interactions once again, where PvEers might be protected by a bunch of bodyguards in their guild going out into the world. And just so many things that can come from so many forced social interactions from that open world PvP environment. That can come from that if we can do it successful. That's of course the question, but
it is always the question. That's always a little nerve-wracking trying to figure out how exactly you're going to pull that off. But they're trying. They're at least trying to do something different.
Their mindset. I like their mindset, and it is true though. In the beginning, I looked at the Ashes PvP flagging system and I was 100% hyped about it, and I'm still very excited about it. But it is true that players will go way out of their way, way more than you would ever imagine, just to troll other players. And the only ones getting enjoyment out of that are the trolls, and it can really ruin a game. So we have to keep an eye on that. I think the corruption system that they're talking about right now, it sounds good to me. I can't wait to test it, and they can make tweaks, and hopefully we can find a happy mix that still focuses on the PvP crowd, but brings in a good chunk of PvEers that can interact and be part of the world and be useful.
Nope, I'm right there with you. So speaking of testing, correct me if I'm wrong, you are not in the Alpha 1 testing?
I am not. I did not make the $500 commitment.
The $500 commitment. I did because I see it as an investment. Like, I'm playing this game. And this is my focus for my channel. So I did. And of course it paid off big time, because when they released the verbal part of the NDA and let us talk about what was happening in testing, that's when my channel really took off. People liked hearing me talk about my experiences in the testing. And if you want to, at some point, we can talk about the different things that I've seen in the testing. And I just a kind of a general overview is very positive. Like, I think that there is a lot to be like, oh, okay, these guys they're putting something out there that's going to be fun and entertaining for a lot of people. And so, in general, I would say there's a lot of positivity there. So you and I, we've both been around MMOs for a long, long time. You since, RuneScape in like 2002 or something. And, I was playing Ultima Online in like 1998, 1999, like way back in the day. And I've been there for the launch of all these MMOs. I played World of Warcraft at launch. I played Star Wars Galaxies at launch. I played,
were you Horde or Alliance? Dun, dun, dun.
I always will choose the knight warrior type of look. So I was definitely Alliance.
I was Alliance too, man. We're probably going to get picked on. I was a night elf rogue, man.
there you go. I was a human. Oh, God, it's been so long. I haven't played that game.
It has been so long.
15 years. I made it to level 45 and quit. And I basically, we played it a little bit once since then, but that's all I did. Warrior, whatever like the just basic tank is.
Yeah.
I think it's called a warrior. I was a human warrior.
I was a warrior. Yep. Cool, man.
So yeah, that's what I did. But so, I mean, I've been around for the launch of all these games, for forever and ever. And, I've never seen a development team that's so open and communicative before, and they're showing us all this stuff. You don't get to see gameplay of an MMO in alpha. Like, that doesn't happen. And not only are they showing us, they're letting us talk about it, and in 25 days, they're going to let us show it. They're going to let us stream it. And that's amazing. And I'm just wondering if you've ever seen anything that even comes close to that in terms of like the openness and communicative of a dev team.
Yeah, not really. In terms of the MMO, I'm not an MMO expert over the past 10 years. Like I said, I haven't
kind of backed away
as much as I did when I was younger. But I think it's really amazing that they're being this open, because it does kind of come with a little bit of a risk, because, you get a group of players that watch the pre-alpha gameplay and they see like one of the animations is wrong, and then they flip out about it. I'm never playing this game again. The word spreads, and it doesn't make any sense, because you can't really judge it, and it's pre-alpha, like that harsh, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's exactly. There's 2 years till this game comes out.
Yeah.
My favorite current little bug in the alpha, I didn't notice in the last test, so they might have fixed this. I don't know. But the onslaught ability that the tank archetype has, that's the charge, the gap closer, where you just run to the enemy. Especially the very first test, you would end up inside of the enemy. And because you're inside of the enemy, I guess you're like in a space you're not supposed to be. So you just take huge chunks of damage and then die. And so after the first couple of times, I figured out you can just jump out of it. If you jump straight up, you'll like get out of their body, and then you can land on the other side of them and fight them. And so I thought I was smart, so I kept using that ability, like I win Ashes of Creation. And then I did that to a troll, and the troll's so tall you can't jump out of the top of him. So I died again.
Actual troll, not a troll player.
Not a troll player, an actual troll in the game. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. They're being so open about this stuff. I love that they're doing this. And you know what? Even though the game's going to get hate from people that don't understand the steps of development, I think in the long run, it's going to do the game good, as long as they provide the product that they're. It makes you feel better about the game when they do an open development, that they're not hiding as many things.
They're not hiding stuff. One of the things that was wild to me was, they had that first test, the first Alpha 1 that was still covered under the NDA and even the verbal NDA and all that stuff. And whenever I would go to there's a section of the forums that if you have Alpha 1 access, it's, an NDA section of the forums for testing. And there's a feedback section in there. They're like, leave feedback. And if you went and looked at feedback, it was just person after person after person with these 2 or 3 same things. They were like, I noticed this and this isn't fun. Nobody's going to want to do this, that sort of thing. And I'll be damned if the next week when we had our very next test, they hadn't fixed all 3 of the issues.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh my God, this team is responsive. And that blew me away. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what's like your favorite feature of Ashes is? What's the thing that's like you're most excited about as far as like the feature set the game has?
Obviously, I feel like this is probably for many people. The node system is very, very exciting. If they can implement it properly, it's such a core part of the game. Very excited to have, there's some games that do the random generated levels and stuff that you play over, and some of them actually turn out kind of crappy. But I'm very excited about the node system with Ashes in the ever-changing world. It's kind of sad to think about being part of a node and having a house and then having that possibly be destroyed. But you're going to be playing the game likely for much longer, and you're going to get a new experience, then move to a different node. So I'm very excited to see how it plays out. How about yourself?
So this is one of those like making me pick between my favorite children situations. I think the Caravan system is absolutely brilliant, and the everything that they've done around the Caravan system, and the whole idea of making travel time matter and making it where if you want to move large amounts of goods and resources somewhere else, you have to use the Caravan system. So as an example, you can't mail resources, because that would be getting around the Caravan system. And that's something we're all used to. But then I'm like, but the nodes, and, there's going to be content locked behind nodes. And I'm thinking about one of the things I've said before is, probably the nodes that are the closest to the starting zones will be the first big metropolises, the biggest nodes. And there are quest lines that you will do as part of the process of leveling up the node. And so there's going to be people who do the quest that get you that help get the node from level 2 to level 3. And then let's say that node becomes like a power and it never de-levels. There might be a quest that like 125 people ever have done. And then no one else will ever do it. And that, I think that is really fascinating. But lately, man, it's the crafting, everything about the crafting and the artisan system and all the different, it's going to be,
how about the animal husbandry when they talk about that?
Yes. All of the crafting, every bit of it is just fascinating to me. And then you start working in like the way that those three systems that I just mentioned are going to interweave with each other. Man, I'm excited about that.
Going back to the node system, I was just thinking it's going to be like such a crazy event if one specific node ends up like dominating the server, and being the node for like 5 or 6 months, and then the day that it finally comes down, everybody's going to be talking about it. It's going to be nuts in the world, and stuff like that is going to help keep the game fresh if they can implement it correctly.
Now that is if they implement it correctly. That's true, and we'll get to that in a second. But that made me think of something. So for example, there's already a YouTuber. He goes by Easkeruth is his name, and he is basically designing his YouTube channel as if he is a reporter. He's a reporter of Verra, and so even in the testing, he's giving out his reports on how the tests went in a news reporter style way. And I think that's going to be a huge thing because of exactly what you just said, with the world changing and things happening. That's the drama and political intrigue and all that is going to be involved in all that. Like, there's going to be people who have YouTube channels. All they're doing is reporting on the drama.
That's so cool. Yeah. Cause you're not only going to have just news on patches and updates, but you're going to have in-game news.
Yes,
it needs to spread so people can know what's happening in the world. Wow, that's a cool. I'll have to check out the channel. What was the name of the channel again?
Easkeruth. It's Easkeruth. I'll put the link in the description below, as well as a link to your channel in the description below for any of my guys who want to go check out the channel. But another thing, do you know about the whole share market system?
No,
where it's a stock market for the nodes. So you're going to be able to invest in nodes if you think that node is going to level up and increase in value, or I'm assuming you could sell short. And so there's going to be a stock market for the nodes, which means there's going to be YouTube channels with people who are speculating on
crazy.
There's so many stuff like that just blows my mind.
Yeah, one minor concern that I have with Ashes sometimes is like you just brought up that. I never even heard of that before. Sounds like such a cool system. And then I found out about tavern gambling, which sounds absolutely amazing. Sometimes I worry a little bit that there's too many things that they're telling us that we're going to get.
Right.
And I have a little bit of concern with that, but I love their mindset. And if they can really focus on, like you said, the node system in the core of the game, and then everything else will sprout. I think it's cool. There's so much to this game. I hope they can pull it
all off, and that's for sure. Definitely one of the things that's a little bit unnerving is to the degree to which it doesn't seem to matter what Steven is asked. He's like, well, here, let me give you a brilliant answer to that question. You know, and it's like, oh God, it's too good to be true. Like, and I think that just as humans, we learn that, but then as MMO fans, you really learn that. And so, that's very nerve wracking, seeing that.
Yeah. Every question, they got a great answer. I'm like, wow, these guys, this is awesome.
They thought about so much.
Nerve wracking at the same time.
Yes. And, you know, just watching Steven during that AMA, you know, when they do those live streams, the developer live streams, that's a little bit more curated. Like he knows he's going to be asked before.
Right.
But I think he was genuinely didn't know the questions that he was going to be asked in that AMA, because he really seemed like, oh, wow, that's a great question. And watching his mind work, and I could tell that he's very smart and he's like a deep thinker, and he's really trying to solve these problems that have existed in MMOs for years.
His mindset is one of the reasons why I've been pulled into Ashes so much. Even though I don't necessarily agree with everything, for the most part, I haven't heard he's essentially the CEO of Intrepid Studios. I haven't heard people talk like that and be so open about, you know, saying this game's not for people that want participation trophies and stuff like that. Like, it's so great. That made
me smile so big when he said that. I actually mentioned that in my video, and I know that you mentioned it in your video on the AMA, and I did a video covering as well, and I mentioned that, and I was telling my community that my son, when he's 9 now, but when he was 7, he played flag football, and he, for an entire season, he showed up to practices and showed up to games, but he literally did nothing. He didn't pull a single flag. He didn't catch a pass. He didn't throw a pass. He didn't gain an offensive yard. He basically got left off the field most of the time because he couldn't be trusted to even. It's one thing to fail athletically, but he couldn't even like do what he was asked to do, like be at the spot he's asked to be in. And then they gave him a participation trophy at the end. And I sat down with him and had a conversation.
How are you supposed to get better with that?
Yes.
I've failed at many things in my life, and if they gave me trophies, I never would have worked to get better. But you know, right. in all regards, though, I hope that everybody enjoys different types of games. So people that like, there should be games out there that offer people trophies for doing easy things. And it's great, but you just got to separate them, and have different markets. For them, so, and
I really do think that's what they mean when they say this game's not for you. It's not like this game's too hard for you, or you know, you're a Minecraft player. We're above you. It's none of that. It's just that this game has a certain rule set, and if you don't agree with that rule set, that's fine. There are games out there that don't have that rule set. Go play those games. This game is going to have that rule set. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So you mentioned that there was some, you don't necessarily agree with everything Steven or Intrepid is doing with this game. Can you tell me something that you don't like? Something that's like, I'm not really, that's
generally
not my favorite.
Speaking, I don't like cash shops of any type at all, even when they're cosmetics, because visual progression is very important from the MMOs that I came from. If you're wearing something nice, regardless of stats, if it was nice, it usually meant that it had good stats, and people respected that. And I was typically the person with the bad gear, looking at the players that had the cool looking gear. And that means something to me, but I also understand that cosmetic cash shops do keep the game running. It is going to be a nice stream of income for Intrepid Studios. So I've kind of accepted it. And I like the way they talk about it, because Steven keeps saying this is not a participation trophy game. And I like the things he says about it. No pay to win. But generally speaking, I don't like cash shops, period. It ruins the immersion for me. I don't like them in my games. So that's one thing I disagree with, but I understand at the same time.
I'm pretty much right there with you. I get it. You have to have them in today's games. I don't like it, but fine. You could make an argument, maybe you could make an argument that in Ashes it's not as big of a deal because the visual progression, like they're not going to have rating in the way that we think of rating, like Star Wars, or not Star Wars, but World of Warcraft, and that's where you think of the visual progression, like that awesome chest plate came from such and such boss or whatever. So maybe it won't matter as much, but still, I'm not a big fan of the cash shop.
If they can separate the visual gear from the in-game world gear and make sure that there is a distinction between that, I'll be not perfectly fine with it, but I'll be okay with it. But it is a slippery slope. When you see how much money these cash shops bring in, cosmetic or pay to win, when you see how much money these actually bring in, it's almost stupid for a company to not focus on it with the amount of money that they're going to make. So it's a slippery slope. I'm going to keep high hopes with Intrepid and listen to what they say until they break my trust. But so
that's
a tricky subject.
Definitely. So I have one more question for you, and then I'll get you out of here. We talked a little bit about the content creator program you and I have in the pre call, but this whole idea that they have going on with the boot camp, like they're going to put people in the boot camp or whatever. What do you think about that? I'm just curious what.
So, I made a video where I went over that a little bit before, and I was just kind of having a little bit of fun with it, maybe too much fun and making fun of it. Okay. I don't really like it because I don't think an MMO like Ashes should be focusing on boot camps for content creators. Use your resources on the game, get us our game. And That's second fair. Of all, I don't really understand what Intrepid Studios knows necessarily about being a YouTuber and a streamer. They know what they want. But typically, if you're a content creator, you should be looking at content creators, not the big companies telling you. I mean, it's a tough subject. I think they're wasting time on that stuff, but I guess it's not as big of a deal. What do you think? Well,
so I have two different thoughts, and because I've interpreted what they said differently than what other people have, and so depending on which one of us is right, my thought changes dramatically. So one of the things they said is that you will not apply. You won't apply to be a part of the boot camp like you apply to be in the content creator program. And so you can look at that two ways. I interpreted that as if you want to be in the boot camp, you sign up for the boot camp and you're in the boot camp. Okay. And then the way that other people have interpreted that was like they are going to hand select who they want to put in the boot camp. So they're going to go, oh, we like his content. We like his personality. His camera sucks. So let's get him in here and talk to him about getting a better camera and, that sort of thing. And if that's what they're doing, if they're going to say, hey, look, we like these 5 people. They're kind of smaller. They need work on their thumbnails, little stuff like that. Okay, fine. That's where you get into the complaints that you have about just the general, make the damn game. Don't worry about the content creators. Let the content creators create content. But the other one, that's participation trophies to me. If it's just, you just get in. Hey,
yeah. And it's like the part of Intrepid kind of, and then you become a content.
Yes.
It also depends on what the boot camp really is too.
Yes.
I'm speculating, but who knows? Maybe in the boot camp, they're like, well, you got to talk about the game in this way and do that. I don't think they're going to do that. But,
right. I don't think so either.
I don't, as a content creator myself, I'm not looking to Bethesda and BioWare to teach me how to make content. I look to YouTubers that have made it. I watch business YouTube videos. Yes. I just don't see Intrepid Studios telling me that I need a better webcam for myself. It seems like a waste of, and you got it. Like you said, participation trophies. As a content creator, you got to go through the thick, you got to go through the rough times, man. And then you persevere through. Intrepid Studios doing a boot camp's not going to change your, in my opinion, not going to make that much of a difference.
But. What I said on my stream was Intrepid Studios can't make me have a personality.
Nope. Very important.
Nobody at their boot camp can give me a personality. Either I have one or I don't. They can't make me likable. All of that. They can't make me work hard and stay up the extra hour, even though I'm really tired, to go ahead and get that video out so that my viewers have a video for the next day. They can't do any of that.
Are they going to teach charisma and how to talk on
camera?
Yeah,
exactly.
PowerPoint. I'm just so confused about it, but we're speculating, so I don't want to I was just having some fun with it, but
yeah. And I was just curious what you thought, because I figured the whole thing about the participation trophies is what made me think about it, because it made me laugh. If the company that's so anti-participation trophy in their game is basically giving it out to their content creators, which just seems weird. But
I get denied by game companies all the time, man.
Do you?
Even at I get ignored by companies, and sometimes companies don't ignore me, and it's just part of the game. If I don't get into the Ashes content creator program, I'm gonna push on. I'm gonna push on.
That's how I am.
Way to do it, and I guess it's a different mindset. Some people need Daddy Intrepid to
to support
give
them
a PowerPoint on how to be charismatic and use YouTube thumbnails and stuff. I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. All right, man. Well, I'm going to get you out of here. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it. And all my subscribers, y'all go check out his channel if you're not already one of his viewers, because he does awesome content for basically every RPG you can name. So go check him out.
Thanks. I also want to mention quickly, Zillin, that other content creators aren't always necessarily competition too, because in YouTube YouTube, I've noticed this. Yeah, like you doing a video, and if I do the same thing, and another creator does, at some point it does become too saturated. But a lot of this content creation, we're helping the game blow up more in the algorithm, and people will come to Zillin for Zillin, come to another creator for that. I support all the Baldur's Gate 3 creators. I shout them out all the time.
Exactly.
So it's great that you're doing videos, and congrats on the early 1K subs, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
No problem. See ya.
If you made it all the way through that interview, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is some of the type of content that I would like to continue doing on this channel. Obviously I'm still going to cover Ashes. I love Ashes and I have no intention of quitting covering that. But I would like to start interviewing, other creators in the Ashes of Creation space, both bigger and smaller, and just kind of pick their brain about what got them started on YouTube and, their MMO history and then what they like and don't like about Ashes, just similar to what I just did with Michael. So if you guys enjoyed this and you would like to see more content like this, please leave this video a like or leave me a comment and let me know that you liked it so that I'll know that this is the type of thing that you guys would like to see more of. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you're not subscribed to my channel, please do so. We're getting so close to that 1,000 subscriber goal. I'll see all of you guys tomorrow.